At 18 years old, the United States military will hand you a rifle. They'll trust you to clean it, carry it, and use it. They might put you in charge of a fire team, give you 4 other lives to look after, and send you to the other side of the planet to make decisions where the wrong call gets somebody killed. And here's the part nobody brings up at the recruiter's office. That same 18-year-old in most of this country can't legally rent a car. We'll trust them with a machine gun, but not a Toyota Corolla. Why? Because the rental company quietly knows something the rest of us don't say out loud. That brain isn't finished being built yet. If we haven't met, I'm Dr. Prashant Sharma, psychiatrist, former Air Force flight surgeon. I've spent years helping veterans understand their own minds. If you're a veteran or if you love one, hit subscribe because this channel exists to explain the stuff somebody should have explained to you a long time ago. And this one matters because so many of you walked in the door at 17, 18, 19 years old, which means whatever the military was, the good, the bad, the parts you're still untangling, it didn't just happen to you, it happened inside you, during the exact window your brain was still wiring itself together. Today, I want to show you how that works, why it cuts both ways, and most importantly, what you can actually do about the parts that got wired a little bit differently. Because the same thing that made you vulnerable back then is the same thing that's going to let you rebuild now. Let's start with the machinery, your prefrontal cortex. That's the part right behind your forehead that handles planning, impulse control, weighing consequences, talking yourself down off that ledge. That region isn't fully online until somewhere around 25 years old. Not 18, not 21, but 25. And here's the kicker. The part of the brain that lights up for reward, for risk, for excitement, for that let's go feeling, that part matures first, years before the brakes are installed. Think about your first car. And imagine the factory bolted in a roaring V8 engine and a gas pedal that goes straight to the floor. But the brakes, they're on back order. They'll show up in about 7 years. That's not a defective teenager. That's a normal teenager. That's the standard maturational imbalance every single human goes through. The accelerator comes online early. The braking system takes its sweet time. It's why young people take risks, feel everything at full volume, and they can bounce back from things that would flatten the rest of us older folks. Now, here's why this is the most important window in your life to be careful about what you pour into it. During those years, the brain is in what scientists call a critical period. It is unusually plastic, meaning flexible, unusually moldable, soaking up experience and physically reshaping its own architecture based on what you put it through. The wiring you lay down during this stretch tends to stick. So the question stops being, is the brain ready, and becomes, what are we about to teach it? And what do we teach it? We hand a 19-year-old a weapon and the responsibility of whether or not it goes off. We make him a team leader, supervising people, accountable when things go sideways. We put her on a flight line at 3 in the morning, running on 4 hours of sleep. We send him somewhere where the background hum of every single day is something could kill me right now, so I gotta stay sharp. Combat roles, sure, but also the non-combat ones run on sleep deprivation, physical punishment, and being cut off from everyone who ever loved you as well. We are pressing all of that into wet concrete, and wet concrete keeps the shape of whatever you press into it. So let's talk about what that pressure can do. The research here is important. Neuroimaging studies of post-9/11 veterans found that higher combat exposure was linked to thinning of the prefrontal cortex, that decision-making, attention, and memory region. And this showed up even in veterans who never got a PTSD diagnosis, just the exposure, just the dose of trauma. Longitudinal studies tracking soldiers through deployment found shrinkage in regions that govern emotional regulation, and those changes were still measurable at least 6 months after coming home, and then longer deployments correlated with smaller prefrontal gray matter. And then there's the physical layer, blast exposure, impact injuries, mild TBIs that stack up, and in some young veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan, early signs of the kind of degeneration we associate with repeated head trauma, with symptoms that look an awful like PTSD from the outside. Here's the stat that should stop you in your tracks. Younger veterans under 50 years old are roughly 3 times more likely to screen positive for PTSD than older veterans. 3 times. And a lot of that gap runs through loneliness, avoidance, and pulling away from people, which is a cruel loop because withdrawing is exactly what a stressed young brain wants to do, and it's exactly the thing that makes it worse. But, and this is where I have to be honest with you because anything else would be lazy, it's not as simple as the military broke your brain. The science is more nuanced and honestly more interesting than that. A massive study of soldiers found that the very youngest enlistees and the older ones had higher odds of depression and PTSD, while the folks who enlisted in that intermediate window actually had lower odds. And a huge study of 57,000 veterans found that the highest mental health risk was concentrated in people who served less than 2.5 years, while the ones who served past 9 years had less risk. So what that tells us is that service often unmasks a vulnerability somebody walked in the door with rather than purely creating one from scratch. And that vulnerability might be related to your age at the time, to your personality development. It's still related to what happened in the military, but it was influenced by what happened before as well. Translation, if you're struggling, it doesn't mean you're damaged goods. It means you are a real human being with a real history, pressed into an extraordinary environment at an extraordinary age. Now, stay with me because here's the turn, and it's the whole reason I made this video. That same plasticity, the same moldability that made the young brain vulnerable to all of that, is also the reason the military can take a kid and forge something remarkable. Basic training is, in the literature's own words, a developmentally significant experience for a brain that's still forming. And while recruits who showed up with a lot of prior adversity did struggle more, the majority adapted, grew, and came out more capable than when they went in. Structured, intense training during this window doesn't just change behavior. A review of brain imaging studies found that this kind of training produces measurable changes in the brain structure and connectivity in the large majority of cases. The discipline you have, the way you operate under pressure that makes people's jaws drop, the fact that you can be handed chaos and impose order on it. That's not a personality trait you were born with. That's architecture. You built it. The environment shaped it into you during the exact window it could stick the hardest. So here's the reframe I want you to actually take with you. Your brain wasn't broken. Your brain was shaped. And the single most important fact in this entire video is that plasticity didn't shut off when you ETS'd. It's still on. The same wiring that adapted to a war zone or to intense training can adapt to a kitchen table, a marriage, a Tuesday afternoon. You're not stuck with the version of you that the deployment or military service built necessarily. Yes, your brain was much more plastic or flexible when you were 19 years old, but it's still flexible now, and you can still mold it and change it. And of course, the people around you already know something shifted. Maybe your spouse says you came back quieter or quicker to anger or seemed 1,000 miles away even when you're sitting right there. That's not them nagging you, that's them noticing the wiring. And the good news is they can be a part of how you rewire it. Because connection is one of the most powerful tools we have. And isolation is the thing that keeps the worst patterns frozen in place. So let's get to the part that matters most. What do you actually do? First, understand that there are treatments with serious evidence behind them, and you don't have to start with the scariest one. The gold standard trauma-focused therapies, cognitive processing therapy, prolonged exposure, EMDR, they're the heavy hitters. CPT helps you find and dismantle the beliefs the trauma installed. The guilt, the "it was my fault," the "nowhere is safe" mentality. In real-world settings, veterans who got through even a handful of CPT sessions saw large, meaningful drops in their symptoms. Prolonged exposure walks you carefully back towards the memories you've been avoiding until they lose their grip. EMDR reprocesses them while you hold attention on something external. These work. But here's the practical truth I tell every veteran. A huge number of people drop out of the intense trauma therapy, sometimes a third to nearly half, because diving straight into the worst day of your life is a lot to ask on day one. Some people can do it, some people it's more challenging. So if that's you, you're not out of options and you're not a failure. There are excellent entry points that don't make you relive anything before you're ready. For instance, there's STAIR, S-T-A-I-R, a brief, roughly 5-week session built specifically to rebuild emotion regulation and your ability to connect with people. and the data on it in veterans is strong. There's present-centered therapy, which works on your life right now instead of the past, with much lower dropout. And then there's mindfulness-based stress reduction, which the VA actually suggests for PTSD, which had lower dropout than the intense therapies and where about half of veterans in one study hit clinically meaningful improvement. Mindfulness in vets is tied to more resilience, more life satisfaction, less depression and anxiety. Even trauma-sensitive yoga held its own against full talk therapy for some veterans. The body remembers, and sometimes the body is where you start. Talk to a clinician because every case is different, and this is not medical advice. This video is education, not a prescription. The through line of all of it is this. Your brain learned the world was a threat during the years it was most ready to learn anything. That's neuroplasticity working against you. But neuroplasticity is not a one-way door. The same machinery can learn safety, learn calm, learn connection, if you give it the right reps. The same way you once gave it the reps that kept you alive. You did the hard version at 18 with no instructions. The healing version is easier than that, and this time you get a map. So I want to hear from you guys in the comments. How old were you when you first raised your right hand? And what's one thing you wish somebody had told you about your own head, your own brain, before you signed up? Drop it below because somebody scrolling through is going to need to read exactly what you write. If this helped, do me a favor, subscribe, because there's a veteran out there who needs to hear that their brain isn't broken. It's just waiting to be rebuilt. And I can't reach them without you. As always, thanks for watching. Dr. Sharma signing off. See you next time.